What's up, everybody, and welcome back to All the Things Sort of Truth, the soaked-in alcohol reread of the Sort of Truth series by Terry Goodkind. I'm Nate.
And I'm Jade.
And this week we actually have a guest with us. Wade is hanging out with us tonight.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
I was telling him, actually, about this podcast and about the Sort of Truth series, and so he asked me if he could borrow the book, and I lent it to him.
For like 3 weeks, I blazed through it.
And then he decided that Audible was better.
Well, it's easier to, listen to the book rather than read the book while you work. Hands-free and everything.
And so since he's also been listening to this podcast, he wanted to come on and talk about the book with us.
Yeah, figured why not?
So thanks for coming, man. Appreciate it.
No problem. Glad to be here.
All right. Well, in the last chapter, our heroes had just escaped the boundary, kind of, but they heard the Hearthounds nearby, and so they needed to get the fuck away. And that's basically where we are now. It's the beginning of the high-speed chase scene.
Yeah, the horses are going full fucking tilt, and the hounds are on their asses.
Kaylin takes the lead so Richard could keep himself between them. This is like the 4th time he's done this. And I think it's funny because her purpose is to keep him safe, not the other way around necessarily, but he's always the one protecting her. Richard keeps trying to steer them away from the Hearthounds a little bit because he pretty much knows that there's no chance of them outrunning these things. They're going to catch up eventually. Might as well make that as long a time as possible.
Yeah, but the trees are too thick, so they have to keep to the path. Otherwise, they're fucked.
Right, they wouldn't be able to run anyway.
They have to get to the swamp.
Which, by the way, they don't know how far the swamp actually is. They're just blindly running.
No,
Yeah.
Richard's never been this far, so he has no idea where he is.
Nobody knows where anything is. They don't know where they're going. They're just running.
Full tilt in the dark, which is not a good idea. You're not supposed to do that.
Through thick trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bodies were bouncing and jostling, and Richard was hoping that they're going to be conscious soon, and I thought that was funny, because no. Probably not.
He knew that that's not good to, like, shake somebody around like that, and that all their wounds aren't getting helped, but also you'd really be hoping that your knot skills were up to par, because if somebody fell right now...
Yeah, imagine
fucked.
falling off of a horse
Yeah.
at full speed in a swamp. Like, it might be a soft landing, but you're probably going to nail a tree.
Yeah.
I just got the visual of that. It's like, oh, so that would be
Imagine
bad.
slipping off the back of a horse.
Oh.
Like, you're already conked out because you're, like, getting jostled and, like, the horse is just jumping. And then you just slip off and, like, your legs catch a tree or something. Just snap them in half.
At, like, full tilt.
Yeah. That's like 50 miles an hour. I'm kidding. More like 30. But still.
Well, and either it's boundary magic that has these guys knocked out, or they had fucking, like, head injuries.
Yeah, it could be something really serious. They don't know.
So being jostled is probably not great.
Well, Chase's head is bleeding, so I'm
Oh,
guessing...
yeah.
Oh, that's right.
For sure he has that injury,
Yeah.
so let's maybe not.
That's not so much magic, I don't think.
Richard realizes the woods are turning to cedar, and he's like, okay, cool, we're near water for sure. And then they go over that hill, and they're in the bowl. And he's like, we found the swamp.
Yeah, with Kaylin still in the lead, her horse disappears over the edge of this bowl, Richard following closely behind. And they find just the Scow Swamp.
It talks about the smell of the swamp, how everything is all rotten.
I feel like that's the number one thing about the swamp. The smell. And I think the heat, probably. It's like that moist, humid.
Moist.
So naturally going through this swamp, they have to slow down the horses because it's easy for them to break a leg if their leg goes underneath the water and they trip on one of the roots from the trees.
Right, and they describe some of these roots, though, from the trees as, like, claw hands, and that's creepy. I'm sorry. I listened to that part, like, 3 times because I thought it was so weird, and I can picture it in my head.
Isn't it true that when a tree is growing in a swampy area and it kind of erodes away the bottom of the swamp, the trees kind of look elevated above the water and you can see the roots?
Out of it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I pictured these things.
Yeah, there's a place in Florida that's called, like, the mangrove trees.
Mm-hmm.
You can
mangroves.
kayak through them, and they have really big, long
Really?
roots like that, too, yeah.
I'm going to check that out.
Oh, I thought about it. I looked into it the last time we were there, but we didn't go.
I like cool shit like that.
I know.
I also like gated tours, but on like a fan boat because I don't want to get anywhere near them.
So the way Terry is describing the swamp, and this is kind of a recurring skill that he puts in play throughout the entire book, he describes things in such great detail, and he puts the smells in there, like you can taste it in the back of your throat, and just really thick air and stuff like these tree stumps and the sharp calls and hoots from the different animals in the swamp. And it just reminds me of the Redwall books. I don't know if you guys have read those or heard of them.
No.
It's a series by Brian Jakes, and he goes into great detail on just food. The whole series is like about animals and their interaction, and I'm not sure how to describe it, but he goes into such expansive, painful detail on food. They have these massive banquets, and he just like puts you in that banquet room at the table, with a weasel on this side and a vole on that side, and it puts you in that person's seat. And in this scene, you can picture yourself just diving down into that swamp on the back of a horse, right with Richard and Kaylin.
I haven't read those books, but I can totally agree with the way you described being right in there with them.
The one thing I do like about how Terry writes is he doesn't take quite as long to get there as Tolkien does.
Yes.
Now, I love those books too, but I remember reading them for like 10 pages is just setting up the scenery.
You would have entire sections of the book where you're like, just get to where you're going.
And 2/3 of all 3 books is just them walking.
Yeah,
so like, it got a little bit much. At least Terry is like, he paints a real vivid picture, and he's like, okay, this is where we're at. This is what's happening. And he doesn't make you wait for that much of it.
Once they start talking, things go bam, 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 and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. There's nothing for a while, and then it's info dump, and you need to be paying the fuck attention.
At this point, Richard takes his sword out, and he sees the island. It says, maybe we should go that way. The hounds maybe can't swim through the water. Maybe that's why Chase was sending us here in the first place, because he said we were going to be safe in the swamp.
Yeah, Chase didn't really give him good directions, which is something that's going to come up later in this chapter, and I thought it was kind of funny. He got hit with shitty directions twice.
It happens. As soon as Richard says maybe we should go to the island, Kaylin jumps in the water and is just like, all right, here we go. She doesn't even think twice once he tells her what to do. Yeah, I like that about Kaylin.
Well, better her than me, because as they ride through the water, Richard looks in the water and he sees that there are snakes.
And then he saw the snakes.
Yeah. He's never seen snakes this big, and he's a guy who hangs out in the woods a lot, so I'm sure that he's seen... I mean, there are some pretty big snakes in the woods up here.
Yeah. This water is not clear. There's no way. I wouldn't go in the water. There's...
Well, you have certain death behind you, and you have the chance... maybe that this island is your one saving grace. I mean, I don't care what's in the water at that point.
Maybe. But this is why Kaylin should have a weapon.
Oh, definitely. I can't believe she hasn't taken one from somebody yet. Or
like Chase
even
is
from
right
Chase.
there with his entire arsenal just strapped to his body.
Right.
And she's sitting there with nothing.
Right.
Doesn't she have a long knife from Chase?
She got a knife. I don't know that it's a long knife, but she definitely should have grabbed something more substantial.
Oh, yeah.
At this point. Well, they have... Okay, yeah. They have fucking hounds chasing them. For fucking sure, she should be toting something bigger to whap those things away if they got closer. Don't depend on the man with the sword. Grab your own shit.
Wow. Okay. Guess I won't save you in the future.
No, you saved me. Like, that doesn't change. You still saved me.
It's like, Nate, you can cut your hours at work at this point. She don't need you.
But also, just in case, I have a sword. It's a just in case sword.
Right. But yeah, he drags his sword through the water. And when he does this, he notices that the snakes go in the other direction.
Mind you, Kaylin hasn't seen the snakes yet. She is on a one-track mind. Let's get to that island.
Right.
She has no idea this is going on behind her.
Well, I thought it was weird because he said he wanted to have his sword ready, but if his arm is already all the way down, then how do you attack from all the way down? Don't you have to strike down at the snake?
Yeah, no, it was him dipping it in the water didn't make a whole lot of sense in the first.
No,
like,
you would hold it above the water, and you'd get ready for a snake to come anywhere fucking near you, and then you would just hack and slash.
Yeah, and I had this thought earlier. Like, okay, there's a bunch of snakes in the water. Let me just drag my sword in the water and see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No.
Right. What if I do this?
Like,
Then
let's just play around and see what happens. Why not?
What happens? Then you're just an asshole with his sword in the water. That's all.
Yeah, no, you would for sure have it up and maybe be swinging it at this point.
Maybe.
It's like trying to ward off the snakes. He does notice that the heart hounds are like waiting, so they can't go back the other way. They have to keep going forward. And they get to the island like way sooner than I thought they were going to. After he dips his sword in the water, it's like no big deal.
Yeah, they're there. The snakes are gone, and the heart hounds can't get through the water. So his best move is to just keep going forward.
Richard starts to wonder what is going to happen once they get to dry land. And he decides he's going to experiment at like the last minute. He's like, I'm just going to take my sword out of the water, see what happens, see if the snakes attack me, whatever. Nothing does. It's really anticlimactic, kind of.
But they totally come back.
Yeah, they do a little bit, but then he gets on dry, like, immediately he's on dry land, and it's like, okay, whatever, they don't care.
Yeah, they don't follow. They just kind of slither on the shoreline. Some go back in the water, but none of them follow.
Right.
But now he's on an island.
Yeah.
He has nowhere left to run. I thought that was kind of a funny theme through all of this, that he's like, maybe the island is safe. You better hope that it is, because if it's not, then
You're
have
screwed.
nowhere else to go.
You're completely
Absolutely
fucked.
fucked.
At this point, they make a little makeshift structure. They can't make a fire because all the wood's wet. He has a couple little candles, which at first I was like, what the fuck? Where'd they get the candles? But I guess Emma probably packed them for them.
Yeah, that's something I caught partway through the chapter, was the candles. I was like, where the hell did they... They packed not light for this thing.
He's a woods guy. Richard is a woods guide. You know, he's supposed to have a little bit of everything.
I feel like Richard didn't bring these, though. He forgot his knife, so I feel like this was an Emma thing.
Okay, that's a fair point. That's a very good point. He's kind of been forgetting everything this entire book thus far, so you're right.
So they check Zed, and there's no change to his injury at all. And they check Chase, and the bleeding has stopped now, but it's still pretty fucking severe.
It's looking pretty grim.
Yeah, anytime you bleed out of your head, I don't think it's a really good sign.
No. And Kalen is worried because it's not good for any wizard to have his eyes closed this long.
Well, if he can sleep with his eyes open, then the fact that his eyes are closed has to be significant.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't flesh that one all the way out.
I think that's what she's saying, is that normally wizards don't. Actually, Jay said that he thinks that Zed closes his eyes when he passes out and then opens them back up once he's asleep. So...
What?
So, like, the magic is doing it for him.
Yeah, popping them back open.
See, but that was kind of my point when we were talking about that. I would not be able to hold my eyes open and then fall asleep.
Does he blink when he sleeps? Or is his eyes just open all the time?
Stay really
it's
fucking dry.
And you have to, like, like splash water, but on your eyes? Or does he wake up and it's like a night after drinking, your mouth is the fucking Sahara Desert, and you gotta, it feels like you're trying to eat sand or something.
He's got a pint-sized bottle of eye drops
Yeah.
on the side of his bed.
You would just wake up, crawl to the river.
Just going right in. Head first.
No, but that's what he was saying, is that he closes his eyes to fall asleep, because that would be weird. And I said, that's a little bit less creepy if you close your eyes at first.
Yeah, and more comfortable.
Yeah.
If I became a wizard, I don't think I'd ever be okay with you're going to start falling asleep with your eyes open.
Yeah.
But if I can just go to sleep like normal and they open up after, still super dry eyes in the morning would suck unless you are blinking, which is a really good point. I'm kind of glad that you brought that up. I never thought about that.